Okay, welcome to another edition of the Meeting of Waters. In this edition, we are talking about the topic that is not little known in Brazil and also in the region of Latin America. We are speaking about the groundwater's discharge to the ocean floor and the implications for the cycle of nutrients and also the carbon capture. What's an exciting topic, isn't it? Well, to talk about this, we have Dr. Mitsuyo Saito. She is associate professor at the Hiroshima University in Japan, and who is visiting us thanks to our SACRI project, a thematic project that's in which she is participating actively. Actually, she spent these 2 weeks with us, not just visiting us in technical terms, but she has some time to go to the beach and take fun for just 2 days, not much. But actually, it's her sixth visit in Brazil, and this time it was the opportunity for a visit something else than airport, hotel, and the field work. But it's okay, and now she's getting more and more Brazilian in this way. Okay, you are sure that you have a very good discussion today. I reminded you that Meeting of Water is a series of events organized by the SACRI, the thematical project, which is supported by FAPESP and the CNPq and the government of Japan, which we would like to thank all of this institution. To learn more about this project, please visit our website. That's www.projetosacre in Portuguese, project in Portuguese.org, that's totally in Portuguese. We are still on the construction and you have just the version in Portuguese, but the next time, I'm pretty sure that you have the English version. Mitsuyo, on behalf of the Institute of Geoscience and the University of São Paulo, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation to talk about this very interesting and sometimes intriguing for many people subject. And well, thank you very much. Domo arigatou gozaimasu e thank you. Oh, obrigado. Okay, the audience is totally yours. Thank you.
You. Thank you for introducing me, Hikardo, Hirata Sensei. So welcome to my presentation today. So thank you for joining. I'm Mitsuyo Saito from Hiroshima University. So today, yes, as introduced by the Hikardo, I'm going to give a talk about submarine groundwater discharge, coastal nutrient cycle, and blue carbon capture. So firstly, I'm showing these two pictures. So this is a coastal area of Seto Inland Sea near the Hiroshima. So you can see some biology here. So this is all the green color area is covered by the seagrass and seaweed ecosystems. So that is blue carbon. So as a forest on land, so we can call it green carbon. But so like a forest under the sea, so we call blue carbon. So this kind of the ecosystem is very common in Japan, so especially for seagrass ecosystems. So I'm going to now we just started to focusing on the evaluation of how groundwater discharge can influence on this type of ecosystems. Okay. So yes, I'm yes I landed on São Paulo probably August 8th. So now I'm being here for 2 weeks. So this is my longest stay in here. So thanks to Hikardo and the other members. So I really enjoyed the stay, not only the sample stay and something fun place. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is just the supported project from mainly from Japan and JSPS, and I have mainly collaborators in Hiroshima University and Okayama, so my former university, and I have mainly three collaborators in my project. So the Hirato sensei from USP, and Professor Masaki Hayashi from the University of Calgary, and Professor Alina Payton from University of California, Santa Cruz. So I'm really appreciate for this project and the collaborators, and so Sakura. Okay, so this is the outline of today's talk. So firstly, I'm gonna explain what is submarine groundwater discharge. I'm sure someone already know very well, but so just in case, I'm gonna explain briefly about this phenomena. So overview and how to measure something. And secondly, so I want to talk about submarine groundwater discharge is a very important pathway to the nutrient from land to sea. And the third, so I want to show because the project about the blue carbon ecosystem is just started. So I have some the results. So I want to show you today. And finally, I would like to conclude my talk. So firstly, I'm briefly talk about the submarine groundwater discharge. So yes, this is a water cycle. And in here, so you can see that the submarine groundwater discharge here. This is defined as the flow of water through continental and insular margins from the seabed to the coastal ocean, regardless of fluid composition or driving force. Yes, this is a submarine groundwater discharge. All the water discharge through the underground to the sea. And so this is the state of groundwater in the coastal area. As you know, the left figure shows the hydrostatic equilibrium condition based on the Geigen-Herzberg relation. So yes, so if there is no water cycle, so the groundwater, fresh groundwater and seawater interface is show this type of the shape of interface. But so in the reality, so you can see this the left picture, because so there is a natural water cycle on the Earth. So the groundwater discharge, normally discharge in the natural situation, so groundwater discharge based on the hydraulic gradient like this. And finally, discharge to the sea. So especially for the shallow, the unconfined groundwater can discharge near the here, so coastline. And there is the interface between the fresh groundwater and seawater in underground like this. This is the natural situation in the coastal area. And usually we can estimate as for the unconfined groundwater discharge based on the Darcy flags. So it can be say the groundwater discharge, fresh groundwater discharge from land to sea can be estimated by the hydraulic conductivity on the subsurface substrate and hydraulic gradient. But usually this hydraulic gradient is correspond to the topographic gradient in the case of unconfined shallow groundwater. And I show you some the spatial scale, different scale of the submarine groundwater discharge. So this is near shore scale, most smallest scale. the scale is around less than 10 meters from the coastal line to the sea. As you can see, this different color shows this blue color shows a fresh groundwater column, and this pink, the violet color shows the saline recirculation groundwater cell. So usually this caused by the, for example, the tidal variation and the density difference. So usually, yeah, as I told you already, so shallow groundwater can discharge near the coastline as this. But in case of this, this type of the saline recirculation cell exists underground, the fresh groundwater also can discharge under this column. And this is going to a little bigger scale. So this is a few kilometers to up to 10 kilometers from the coastline to the ocean. So this picture shows the case. So there is some the confining unit. So less permeable and permeable layer, like a clay silt layer exist underground. So in that case, so the former figures which showed this here, this around here, but so if there is a confined unit underground, so the the deep groundwater has a higher pressure, can discharge more offshore area. And this is the final one. This is the shelf scale. So you can see the layering of this picture. And so in case of this, the depth is, of course, it depends on the situation, but so, for example, more than 500 meters. So sometimes the groundwater influenced by the geothermal heating, like this. So, but recently, some researchers confirmed the fresh groundwater discharge from this shelf scale, so more than few kilometers offshore the ocean, into the ocean. The important thing I need to say, so SGD, submarine groundwater discharge, includes not only the fresh groundwater discharge, recharge from inland, also, as well as the seawater recirculation. So both discount. So I say the groundwater discharge and also saline groundwater discharge. This both component is included as a SGD. Yes. Because so in the saline saltwater recirculation zone, so only seawater recirculating. But so even if it is a seawater, so at once it intrudes to the underground, so it contributes the mass movement, and sometimes it dissolved more materials and discharge to sea. So that's why we need to consider the both component as a submarine groundwater discharge. And so the geological situation controls the SGD, of course. And so here I show some very limited examples. For example, the well-salted sand and the fractured granite and the limestones. So, for example, if the subsurface, the materials composed by the well-salted sand, so it usually causes this type of groundwater discharge. So we can call it the seepage type. So as I shown you already, so there, in this case, usually the fresh groundwater between the fresh groundwater and the saline water interface exists underground, and usually the discharge, the pattern is more wider area, and the flux is less. So we can call it like a seepage type. But so if it's in case that there is this type of the fractures in the underground, so you can see the water can flow through the fractures. So usually this cause the spot discharge with higher flux. So we can call it the like a spring type discharge. So I want to show you as a photograph. So this is by the MUA 2008 at the Atlantic coast. So you can see the some red color. This is the beach, and you can see the red color. So this is the groundwater discharge area because usually groundwater contains higher ion. So after it, the discharge to the under reach to the atmosphere, so the ion can precipitate. So that's why we can see this type of the phenomena in the discharge zone. And this type is a spring type, so very high flux, but the discharge is like a very spot type discharge with higher flux. So we can see this type of the density difference. Yes. So this is a geological control. And I want to show some the example of how to measure the groundwater discharge to the sea. There is several methods. But so, for example, in the one of the measure method is the seepage meter. So we can install this type of the chamber on the ground and measure the flux directly inside of this chamber. So sometimes we can also use the heat pulse sensor and detect the flux of groundwater. And also this one shows the piezometer method. So it's a borehole. So we can install this type of the borehole in different locations. For example, along to the from the land to sea, this transit. So we can know that the difference of the pressure and also difference of the nutrient component and the chemistry. And sometimes we can also apply the resistivity test to detect the interface between the fresh groundwater and salty water. And so I'm also using this method for the relatively not the very small scale. For example, along with the coastal line. So this is the geochemical tracing method. So in case of the SGD, so the radon 222 is a very useful one because radon 222 is a radioactive isotope of uranium-238 series with a short half-life. It is 3.8 days. And so it is a soluble noble gas. So that's why usually the radon in groundwater is much higher than the surface water, for example, seawater, river water, and lake water. So that means the radon is very useful and good tracer for groundwater discharge. So this is one of the examples by Barnett et al. 2006. The relationship between the seepage rate, so this is the SGD flux, and this is the radon concentration in the water column. So they show the very good relationship. So that's why, yes, so the radon is a very useful tracer. Okay, so I move to the second part. So why the SGD is important, so why we need to consider about SGD. So this is another schematics of the SGD. So as I told you, the shallow unconfined groundwater usually discharge along the coastal line. And if some architecture exists at the ground, the more higher pressure confined groundwater can discharge more offshore area. So this is shows the groundwater discharge from the land. And compared with the surface water discharge, so that is a river discharge. So the researcher tried to estimate how much water is discharged through the river or from underground. This is a global scale estimation based on the water balance. So in case of the other water discharge, freshwater discharge from the river as 100. So the groundwater discharge is only 5% of the river. it is very small value, So only you see this value, so why we need to consider groundwater discharge? But so you can see this result. So this is about the nutrient flux by river and groundwater. So this is a global scale estimation, as I told you. So in that case, the groundwater supply, the transport, almost the 50% of the nutrient discharged by the river. So that is quite big value, I think. So that means, yeah, this is because usually groundwater contains a higher dissolved matter, not only nutrient, for example, some the minerals, but usually groundwater has higher concentration of nutrients. That's why even the water discharge is much less than river water. So it can deliver more the nutrient. So that means HCD is more important for global nutrient cycle than the water cycle. So recently, we are trying to evaluate how much nutrient transport from pure groundwater, as well as the surface water. And as I told you already, so we need to consider as a groundwater discharge is both the fresh groundwater recharge in the land and also the saline groundwater discharge. This is a saline water recirculation. So this is a relatively new result published in Nature Reviews by Santos. And so they compare the water flow and dissolved inorganic nitrogen and dissolved inorganic phosphorus and dissolved silica discharge from the river and groundwater. And as you can see, they separated the groundwater discharge value and total HCD. So total means include both the fresh and saline component. So that means, so we can know how much the nutrient discharged by saline groundwater discharge. So this value minus the value. So that means the component of the nutrient discharge via groundwater is the saline component. So they estimated the fresh groundwater component is much less than the saline groundwater discharge components. And we can say, the groundwater discharge is a source of new nutrient from the land, but the saline groundwater discharge is often recycle the nutrient from the coastal sediment. Yes, so this result shows we need to consider both components as a groundwater discharge for nutrient transport. And this is one of the examples of the SGD and SGD-derived nutrient in the Mediterranean Sea by natural tracer, and they applied the radium-228. So this is radium. This is radium-222 is a daughter of the radium-228. So, but the radium is also the good tracer for the SGD. And so you can see the higher concentration area is a more higher groundwater discharge area. And they also compare the nutrient flux by SGD and river discharge and atmospheric input for nitrogen, phosphorus, and silica. So based on this result, we can know that the SGD value is almost comparable to riverine and atmospheric input to the Mediterranean Sea. So I think this is very great value. And this is one of the case study of the relatively big coastal sea. And I also want to show some our results in the smaller scale, much smaller scale in the Seto Inner Sea, Japan. So the study island is a citrus island because most around 30% of the total the island is covered by the citrus farm. So that means the groundwater is influenced by the very significant agricultural activity. So yeah, this is our island, and we apply the radon tracer method to estimate the groundwater discharge from the whole the coastline of island. So you can see this, for example, the violet color area shows a higher groundwater discharge area, and this gray color shows less groundwater discharge. So this is a small island, and so the topography is very steep. And there is not a very large river in this area. So we compare the discharge between the river and groundwater. So in this table, so because this island, the topography is a little different between the northern part and southern part. You can see the northern part is a little more gentle topography than the southern area. Southern area is more steep. And some river is northern part, but almost no river, only small streams in the southern area. So that's why we try to compare the discharge in these two different regions. And here, the total water discharge, total nitrogen, and total phosphorus flux means include both river and groundwater discharge. And we separated the estimate how much the groundwater discharge occupied to the total discharge. So you can see this even the water discharge. Both the northern and southern region is more than 50% of water discharged from underground. And also the nutrient discharge is, yes, more than 50% of nutrient is discharged by underground, by groundwater. So that means more nutrient, more water discharged by groundwater than river in the small island scale. And so, yes, this is a map of the seagrass meadows. As you can see, this green, light green color shows the seagrass distribution by the Ministry of Environment. So, yes, as I told you in my first slide, the seagrass ecosystem is very common in the Japanese coastal area. And also our island is covered by the seagrass ecosystems. So we now focusing on the influence of groundwater discharge to this type of seagrass ecosystems. And so we have continued the very intensive detailed survey on the beach scale, tidal flood scale, located in the southern area of this island. So already the Ricardo and Reginaldo and Luciano visited this area. Okay, so finally, I'd like to talk about more the blue carbon, and so how the HDD influence on the blue carbon ecosystems. So the big question is now we know especially for the island scale, the small scale, the groundwater influence on as a water and nutrient pathway to the sea, we know already. But the big question is the groundwater influence on the coastal ecosystems, such kind of seagrass and seaweed. Yes, because so this type of ecosystem exists underground, so near the seafloor. So hopefully the groundwater can influence something for these ecosystems. And so I want to talk a little bit about the blue carbon ecosystems. So this research is published in probably Nature, yes, Nature in 2012. So they compare this carbon capture in the terrestrial ecosystem, terrestrial forest, for example, the boreal, temperate, and tropical forest on land, and the coastal ecosystems, for example, mangrove and seagrass. So you can see, yes, here this mangrove and seagrass is blue carbon because there is in the sea. And you can also know that this relatively big carbon capture capacity in the mangrove seagrass ecosystems. Especially for the seagrass, so there's some range of based on the observation in different area, but it has a very high carbon capture capacity already reported. This is a worldwide study. So yes, the blue carbon has a very high carbon dioxide capture comparable to terrestrial vegetation. So in our target area, we try to evaluate how groundwater discharge influence on these ecosystems. So firstly, we try to apply the nitrogen stable isotope ratio to know this ecosystem, what kind of nutrient source they are using. So yeah, as you know, the nitrogen, in case of nitrogen, there is mainly two the different stable isotope, nitrogen 14 and nitrogen 15. But of course, much higher the percentage is nitrogen 14. But if we measure this nitrogen stable isotope ratio, so delta nitrogen 15, based on this equation, and in case of nitrogen, the standard is nitrogen gas. So this value, so nitrogen 15 value is different in each nitrogen source. For example, chemical nitrogen fertilizer is made by the atmospheric nitrogen gas. So that's why almost the delta nitrogen 15 value of chemical fertilizer is nearly zero. But for example, the nitrate in groundwater, river water, sewage, fertilizer, organic manure, they show different nitrogen 15 value. So that means, so maybe we can know what type of nitrogen the seagrass seaweed uptake and use for their growth. So based on this idea, we measured the nitrogen 15 ratio in the vertical axis. And we collected several types of seagrass and seaweed. But especially for the seagrass is eelgrass in our area. For example, eelgrass, the large size and small size, and the green algae, and other seaweed. So we collected and analyzed. So this is a plot between the carbon 13 and the nitrogen 15 stable isotope ratio. And we also plot together with this biology for the end member. End member means so the water inflowing to this target area. Because in our target, this tidal flood, almost no inflow of surface water. So that means most of the water discharged from underground. But so we plot together with terrestrial groundwater means we collected the behind of this tidal flood, and the SGD fresh, and SGD saline means we collected the piezometer installed on the tidal flood. But if the salinity is very low, so it is a fresh SGD. But salinity is high, it is saline SGD, so we separate it. And this graph shows also the nitrate-nitrogen concentration in the horizontal axis. So based on the nitrogen 15 value, so we can see that almost all seagrass and seaweed shows a plus 6 to 10 per mil. And so this value is very close to this plot. So terrestrial groundwater and fresh groundwater discharge. And also this water has a very high nitrate nitrogen. The more than 10 milligram per liter as nitrogen. Because as I told you, this island is covered by the citrus farm. So that's why the groundwater has a very high nitrate. So that means the groundwater discharge a lot of nitrogen to the coastal area. So that result suggests this seagrass and seaweed uptake the nitrogen supplied by groundwater in this area. So in other words, so the groundwater can contribute to the growth of the seaweed and seagrass ecosystem in this area. And so now we are doing some other research to detect this spatial distribution of the seagrass seaweed distribution. This is based on the aerial image obtained by the drone survey in the whole island scale. So you can see the important thing is we detected the seagrass and seaweed in very, very shallow area. In shallow area means a tidal flat and so. But so in the former survey by the government, so they has not detected such kind of very shallow area. So only more the few meter deep deep area. So this time we succeeded to detect the distribution, a spatial distribution of the including very shallow water area. And based on this spatial variation, this type of the quadrat, very detailed survey, so the density and type of the seagrass seaweed, and also we detected the image analysis. And this based on this remote sensing and field the detail observation survey, we make the relationship, the equation between the coverage of the seagrass and the leaf area index, like this. And finally, we also measure the carbon contents of the seagrass seaweed. So based on this equation, the surface area and carbon contents. So finally, we can estimate how much carbon captured by the seagrass seaweed ecosystem in the whole island scale, as this. But still, we are not sure. So this value is greater or less compared with the other research site, other previous study. But so now we are trying to do continue the research. So my project about SGD and blue carbon is started from actually it is started from 2018, and now continuing ongoing. And so here so I can show some result based on my first project and this ongoing project. Based on my first project, so I'm focusing on how the groundwater discharge make diverse coastal environment. For example, the salinity, temperature, and nutrients, because to conserve these seagrass ecosystems, they need a more diversity environment, because they are the primary producer to do the photosynthesis. But so there are another primary producer, for example, phytoplankton and some other vegetation. But so to coexist the variety of ecosystems, they need more the diverse environment. So to focusing on this point of view, I started to evaluate the groundwater discharge impact on the coastal environment. And this is very related to this Hikaru's project. And so I'm now here using this funding. So now I'm more making the more broad of view about the groundwater discharge. So firstly, the SGD dynamics, the biogeophysical approach. So I'm collaborating with Professor Masaki Hayashi from the University of Calgary. And the second, the SGD impact on the nutrient carbon cycle in biogeochemical approach. So with a collaboration with Professor Adina Payton from University of California, Santa Cruz. And so this third part, evaluation of groundwater governance on SGD. So I collaborating with Hikaru because I want to know how the groundwater management influence on the groundwater discharge to the coastal area, and how that we need to manage for the best practice and best to get the positive and sustainable impact and cycle in the coastal area. So I think we can have some collaboration in this part. It is a separate project. Okay, so so I'm gonna conclude my talk. So as I showed you, the previous many research show the global enclosed coastal sea and island scale research revealed that the groundwater SGD-borne nutrients flux comparable to from rivers. So that is important as a pathway of nutrients. And the SGD impacts on the primary producers such as seagrass, seaweed bed through the nutrient supply. So we confirmed the groundwater can supply some nutrients to the coastal seagrass seaweed in our area. And so that means this type of ecosystem, the sequestrating the nitrogen, a nutrient, as well as the carbon. So in the future, I'm going to evaluate more quantitatively the nutrient, the sequestration by this type of ecosystem and the SGD impacts on the coastal blue carbon capture. And finally, I also want to consider about sustainable management of groundwater as a water resources, as well as a nutrient pathway to the coastal area. Okay, so thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or comments, so very welcome. So this is the photo mistake of the island, so but not in the coastal area. But so the three professors from Brazil visited us this May. Yeah. So okay, so thank you for joining my talk today. Thank you so much.
Well, so a very nice presentation, actually a different one that normally here in Brazil we have a lot of discussion about the cycle, nutrient cycle in not much in agriculture involving groundwater, but in our group mainly about nutrients in the city. Mm-hmm. That's as you mentioned, is very complementary to your project or our project because we are involved in. That's a big input of nitrogen into the environment and discharge. In our case, the aquifer, and after the surface water, and yours in terms of evaluation of how much water or nutrients you can get from the city or release from the city. And but I think that we have a good audience here. I want to ask if someone has questions for her, or mention curiosities, or ask for other.
I guess I do have one curiosity, I guess.
Thank you.
First, nice presentation and very interesting topic. And I was curious, is the nitrogen the limiting factor for seagrass growth in the entire area, or are there also other nutrients that may limit and control the distribution of seagrass in the areas you're studying?
Yes, thank you for your very good question. So in my area, the nitrogen is more limiting factor of the seagrass and also probably the phytoplankton, the growth.
Okay.
So I think that's why the groundwater is very important, the nutrient supply to the coastal ecosystems.
And can you already see some patterns linking the seagrass beds to where you would expect the groundwater flow in the areas you map?
Yeah, actually, yes. So today I show you the stable isotope reserve. So in the area, so relatively the higher groundwater discharge area.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, and more, I think it's also related to some different species of seagrass and seaweed. Usually, I'm not a biologist, but I heard that the seaweed, for example, the rubber and the green, the relatively big size of the seaweed, need more nutrients than the seagrass. So we are some confirmed spatial distribution of the groundwater discharge in the tidal flat scale, and the higher, greater discharge area is covered by the seaweed. So probably they need more nutrient, and they capture, sequestrate in the nutrient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And how about the proportion of the nutrients from the groundwater and also for the ocean? Because expected to have some nutrients in the seawater, and the plant can use part of these nutrients, and also you have the discharge. I know because we visit the area that one of the pictures, you have a plantation of orange plantation upstreams that probably part of the nutrients go through the aquifer is discharged in the shallowest part in the bottom of the coast. But of course, with the nutrients, because we expect nutrients from orange tree fertilization. But also, I think that perhaps there's some nutrients also dissolved in the ocean, and the plant can use both. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Have you calculated this proportion in this area?
Exactly. Yes, unfortunately, I haven't calculated the proportion of the between the groundwater and the contribution ratio of the seawater and the groundwater. But you can see that based on the concentration, is much more higher in groundwater because the seawater nutrient in the seawater is a micromolar level. So I think at least this type of the tidal flat area is more, I think, influenced by the groundwater discharge, but I haven't calculated the proportion yet.
I have a question. So, of course,
Thank you.
very nice presentation. Thank you, Mitsuyo Sensei. Well, it is a curiosity. About the consequences of the seaweed growth. Is it a more? It's a problem. The growth for. Is there any negative consequence or a positive consequence?
Yes, that is also very important question.
Yeah.
So usually the positive impact is I think greater than the negative one, because if they grow more, so they more capture the nutrients and also carbon, so they can mitigate they can reduce the contaminants loading from the land to sea, as well as they capture carbon means, so they can mitigate the impact of the global warming and so seawater acidification. So I think much more the positive impact if this type of ecosystem can grow more. But I heard some negative impact is, for example, the fisherman is the very not the scientific talking, but so during my talking, that they say sometimes the seagrass is because they use the boat, so that some of the seagrass is attached by the screw of the boat. So they said so they don't like that. And other possible negative impact is maybe, so it is, I think, also related to the overgrowth of the phytoplankton. So they finally died and sink under the sea. So they, after that, so decomposition occurs. So the decomposition reduce the oxygen. So I think that is maybe the negative, the impact. But more, I'm sure that based on the previous research, the positive impact is greater than the negative ones.
So I think that maybe it is possible to harvest this seagrass and take advantage of this process for using the seagrass in another situations, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So actually some research already started to cultivate some seaweed to capture more nutrients and more carbon. So artificially, yes. So in some area, but so not this area, but some research already started this type of
Thank you.
activity. Thank you.
Can I have a question as well? So thanks, Mitsuyo, for the presentation. Very interesting. And I don't know much about SGD, so I'm really interested on it. And I was thinking about a comparison when you have a groundwater discharging into rivers. And in that case, you have that hyperoic zone where you have strong geochemical gradients. And in these zones, you usually have a lot of reactions that occur and contaminants attenuation and things like this. And I was wondering if the same thing would happen in this case, in the zones where the groundwater is discharging. Do you think you have like more reactions occurring and like a higher potential for contaminants attenuation? Do you see anything different happening with the nitrogen?
Yeah, actually, so Juliana, we discussed about this type of process during your visit this island. So in this island, but the other location, we also confirm the denitrification occurs in the groundwater. So this area, I think more, I think groundwater discharge rate is much higher than the different location. So we have some observation boreholes. So actually, yes, you are right. So groundwater is usually more redox, more anaerobic situation. So it can reduce nitrate. So today, sorry, I did not include the slides, but in this region, the total, based on my estimation, that based on the water balance, around 70% of the nitrogen applied as fertilizer in the catchment is removed by denitrification in groundwater. So that only 30% of the nitrogen discharged to the sea. But sorry, this is another side of but same island.
Okay, but like the mixing between the two waters, does it cause like something different to happen? Do you think because you can have the nitrification in the groundwater, but when you have the mixing zone, do you see a lot of difference?
Yeah. So the mixing zone between freshwater and saline water, I guess. So yes, actually, for example, so we confirmed that in the mixing zone, some nitrate convert to the ammonium. So and discharge as ammonium in the saline groundwater discharge cell. But the fresh groundwater discharge cell, the nitrogen is discharged as nitrate. Yes. So probably some mixed process decomposition and denitrification and some other process occurred in this mixing zone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
More questions, comments, or ideas?
I have a question. I'm sorry. Maybe I missed something. Well, thank you for your talk. But what is blue carbon?
Blue carbon. Yes, blue carbon is usually defined as ecosystem, so primary producer. So that means the biology can do photosynthesis in under the sea. So that means mainly the mainly some, for example, mangrove forest and seaweed, and also some researchers say the phytoplankton is also as a part of blue carbon.
Okay.
Yes, but in the under the sea, not on the land, is a blue or green. This is a difference.
According to your graph, there is a lot of the high amount of blue carbon now in this.
Yeah.
Consider the world.
Yes. So
that's important for capture of carbon and also for the process of climate change.
yes.
So, well, I have a last question, perhaps much more related to the methodology. Once you also involved in our project that you have the same subject, but not discharging in the ocean, but discharging rivers. It means that in our Sacre project, the idea is to quantify and the amount of water that the river receives as a base flow from the aquifer. And in one side, on the other hand, the idea is to say that shallow groundwater discharging in the river, what's the exchange in the chemistry, not just in the bottom of the river, but the idea also in our project is to pump groundwater pretty close to the river and invert the flux position from the river to the aquifer. And what do you expect about the attenuation of contamination? Because in the area that you are studying, the rivers are high contaminated. But much more in terms of methodology, because I saw that there is some driving points constructed perpendicular to the coast. Is there any other device to get efficiently water or any other kind of equipment or pieces of equipment that help you to do this type of evaluation of this type of analysis?
Yes, so usually we apply the phaseometer method to detect the interaction between surface water, groundwater interaction, even if for the river bank area. And if we try to evaluate more the wider and huge greater area, so I think radon is more useful to detect some the more special, including special variation. So yes, yeah, this is the idea. And so also because so you mentioned about the groundwater obstruction pumping effect. So if of course, the people more pump up the groundwater in the coastal area, so it can reduce SGD, groundwater discharge to the sea. So it can also reduce the nutrient supply by groundwater. So it can influence on coastal nutrient cycle and ecosystems. So I think in the catchment scale from the recharge area to discharge area, we need to evaluate how for example, how manage the recharge and how manage the pumping the volume of groundwater is also important for the water resources as well as the groundwater discharge. How to maintain the sustainable discharge to the sea. I think this point is also important.
Okay, great. Anything else? Huh? Existe alguma pergunta from the audience and from the...
No.
No? Okay. Okay, if think your time 10:30, 7, 10, 7:05, 10. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that I want to thank you, Mitsuyo, for a very nice talk and to provoke us to think about different things. That's important. And to bring this type of subject that goes much more further than just groundwater and the hydrodynamic of the aquifers and another water body that's in your case is the ocean, but also the importance of everything in relation to the nutrient cycle biology of this type of species, and also there is a consequence or the influence on the capture of carbon that's so important as a strategy to reduce the climate change impact. Oh, thank you very much. Muito obrigado for your coming to Brazil. You know that you are all the time welcome to Brazil. And you expect you next in December. That part of the other part of the team is also coming to Brazil, and you continue the project in the Sacre project. That is also our tourist here in Brazil. But thank you, and thank you for all for the audience here at the University of São Paulo, and also by internet, or I don't know what to say, by YouTube audience that I expect that you are pretty interested in this discussion. And of course, as usual, all the meeting of waters, the idea is to finish the recorded or finish the record and share the link for people who cannot attend for this event. And also, I think that if you're someone interested in keeping much more informed, please send us a message that you can continue to discuss this subject that I think is really important, mainly for Brazil, that we have a very long coast and more than 8,000 kilometers of coast, nice and beautiful one. But you have a very large coast. That's also important to have this understanding about the discharge on the base of the ocean. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody, and have a good rest of the afternoon. Very nice day. Thank you. Okay, great.
Muito obrigado.